Hey there, welcome to Quilt Like an Artist 4. Today we're going to talk about my quilt titled Ennobled. Before we begin today, I wanted to address the title of the quilt that we're going to talk about. It's titled Ennobled, and when I was finishing up working on the quilt, that word kept popping in my head and I was not sure what it meant, so I looked it up. And it typically refers to being raised up into nobility. But the definition that I found that resonated with me was more about if we find ourselves pursuing something that lifts us up, we feel ennobled. And when I read that, that resonated with me. And I have to say, when I completed this quilt, I felt ennobled or empowered myself. And I definitely thought she had the look of nobility. So ennobled is her name. Its name, her name. And I just thought that was kind of, I usually have a really hard time naming things, and I just thought that was kind of interesting. So, all right, let's get on with the show, how she came to be. So once again, I started with a photographic eye, and I built 2 sides to her face. The second eye was created by using one of the circles from fabric I designed for P&B Textiles. The collection was called Origins. I also created 2 faces this time before I started, and the one on the right you will see in the next quilt. So then I began playing, and I had this quilt top that I had English paper pieced years before. In fact, it uses a collection that I designed for Andover back in 2006. So I auditioned it in many configurations, and I also pulled in a couple other quilt tops that I had done just to see what can I make with these existing quilts and quilt blocks, because I love them, but I've just never finished them into quilts. They're just tops. I'm sure you have a few of those too. So at this point, I've decided to use this quilt top, and now I'm just laying some black fabric over the top of it to see where do I want to cut into it and how do I want to position it with the head. Here you can get an idea of the scale. It actually spans my whole design wall, and now I'm playing with some additional parts of that quilt. I'm really having fun at this point. There is something about this quilt at this stage that once you see it, you can't unsee it, and I had not seen it yet. So if you look at where her ears would be and you see the little green diamond and the little pink diamond, well, once I saw that, I'm like, no, I have to reorganize this. And so I kept building the quilt, and eventually I positioned things so that they were no longer looking like little pixie ears, or I don't know what kind of ears. As you can see, I'm building all around her, adding, taking away, moving things, moving things. This was such a fun project. She is definitely one of my faves. And like all my quilts, I did not know what she was going to look like when I started. I did not know what she was going to look like until she was finished. And that process makes me happy. I will say, when I was in the middle of my previous quilt, Surviving Everything, I thought to myself, I am never doing a quilt like this again. But as you can see, I was wrong. And I guess it just goes to show you that the more we do, the more we learn, the more we practice, the easier it gets, the more we enjoy it. Keep going, folks. Don't give up. I did use a lot of the fabrics from 2006 that I still have and it was really fun to incorporate them almost, what, 20 years later. So here's a close-up of some of the work around her face. You can see her ears have disappeared, or maybe they relocated there for a minute, but this is where she ended up. This is laying on my cutting table. And here she is completely finished with her borders on. And there I am, standing proudly, feeling ennobled. I hope that you choose to work on projects that make you feel ennobled as well. I think it's really important to pay attention to how we feel about the process of the project that we're working on. Notice I said process, not product. More on that later. On to the next quilt. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.